203. Item number 2, human resource update, A, recruitment, and B, open enrollment. Ryan?
Thank you, Chairman. Recruitment, currently in the process of setting up interviews for finance support specialist. Those interviews will be taking place the remainder of this week and into next week. We have hired 2 labor positions, so the positions at the street department are now full. And that is really the quick recap on that. So we are going to be filling finance support specialist here within the next couple of weeks, is our hopes. Open enrollment, I spoke to it at the last meeting in October. Just a reminder that open enrollment deadline will close Friday, November 11th. That's all I have on those. Any questions?
All right, moving on to item number 3, discuss and consider for approval a 2023 general wage increase for non-represented employees of the city. Do you want to start this?
Sure. Thank you. So annually, this topic of discussion comes up. Some refer to it as a COLA, a cost of living adjustment. This is our general wage increase for the non-represented employees of the city. And I was wondering or suggesting that 3% may be a good starting point for discussions, but looking to the HR committee's views and thoughts on what they might want to recommend.
All righty. Committee, any questions? Anything?
Ryan, could you talk about what other communities are doing and what the CPI comes out to for where we're at?
Absolutely. Thank you. Good question. CPI currently in the Midwest is running at 8.5% from the information I've been able to gather. Surrounding municipalities are shooting for a general range of 2.5 to 3.5% increases. Ironically, most of their meetings are also taking place this week and next week on those same topics of discussion. Same issues are plaguing them as well as far as budget. One option that they are doing, and this is where as we continue to build our new pay scale philosophy, some places are doing a small percentage increase and then automatically moving an employee up a step. Other places are just going with flat increases, anywhere from 7% to 2.5%. So like I said, on average, I would say 2.5 to 3.5% is kind of the going rate in central Wisconsin as to what's being proposed at this current time. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve 3%.
Before we get, Tyler, is Tim on?
Yeah.
Tim, can you hear me?
Yes.
So can you maybe just tell us a little bit about what you have in the budget for this year, and maybe just tell us what you have budgeted, please.
Yes, I have 2.75% factored into the budget. This is commensurate with the other negotiated union contracts happening police and fire. And so I guess my question is, and this could be kind of go out to the whole compensation philosophy, is like, how do we determine what our cost of living adjustments going to be from year to year? Is it commensurate with what our union contracts negotiate? Is it comparables? And when we do the comparables, do we take into consideration where our benchmark is as far as market, our positions with their market, and other factors that might be factored into why they're getting a higher or lower cost of living adjustment any one particular year?
Yeah, thank you, Tim. That's actually great insight, and that's one of the items as we're putting the pay scale and the philosophy together. That's one of the things is rewriting our policies overall that we're going to have to do, and to make those decisions to present to council is which way we want to go, just on the factors that you just talked about, the comps, what do we want to look at, CBAs going off that. So I agree wholeheartedly on that. I guess that's all I have.
Tim, I have one question, I guess. Can you tell me what the impact dollar-wise is on the budget and maybe the difference between 2.75 and 3%? Tim, can you hear us? If you can, I think you're muted.
Sorry. I had it for, here. Give me a second here to subtract two numbers. Basically, the difference between a 275 and a 3 is 22,702. And what I have in contingency is 275 plus a 5% increase in health insurance. So we go above the 3%, depending on how health insurance comes in. Right now it's in contingency we have it, but if health insurance come in above, an increase or whatever our present levels, that's to be determined because we renew our health insurance in July 1.
Okay. All right, thanks, Tim. We have a motion on the floor in a second. Did you have something else? No. We have a motion on the floor in a second. All those in favor say aye. You didn't second it? Oh.
There, and it was provided, so.
So,
I would rather personally, I guess, go with the 275. I don't know if the motion, well, there's not a second, but if the motion here would be willing to consider that, or Jay would be, I mean.
I guess my only concern is the $22,000 that we don't have in the budget right now, and I think Mr. Hartman just suggested that there's a good possibility that we're going to see increases in health insurance this year, so those are all things I think we have to consider.
My concern is that it's at 8.5% and 3% really doesn't even cover, that's not even close to what it is. I think that there was ample opportunity to take out $22,000 out of the budget.
All right, I'll second the motion. So we have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Is that for the two?
Aye.
For the 3%.
3%?
You did not change your motion, correct, Patrick?
No, it's at 3.
For the 3%.
3%.
I'll say aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Item number 4, discuss and consider for approval a pay increase for Parks and Rec Department basketball scorers from $9 an hour to, the range is from $9 to $10.50 an hour to $12 to $13.50 per hour. Ryan or Jake?
Yeah, I'll start. I want to thank Jake for coming today for his, just because this is his department. And we're having a little bit of difficulty in hiring at these current rates. And as we've been kind of waiting on them seasonally to see, if things change, and it seems to be a trend, obviously. So Jake has some good information, but yes, looking to propose moving the hourly rates for the basketball scores, which is the season starting this week or next week, I believe, Jake,
Next week.
and moving it up, a couple dollars an hour, but I'll let Jake speak to that on the specifics and the room in his current budget.
So basically what we pay for the 15 games for the scorekeepers was $630. So we're looking at raising that up to $750. Again, just for the 15 games, that would be going from $10.50 up to $12.50. It's 4 hours a night and 15 games, like I said before. So there's only a $120 difference, and right now we're sitting at $3,200 left in our seasonal budget, so we will be obviously way under what we were expected to use this year. And then we bring in $855 for this program, so we'd be making out still above what we're going to be spending. And like Ryan said, it's just tough to find staff at $9 an hour to sit there from 6 o'clock till 10 o'clock.
So, you said $12 an hour, and I'm guessing that range to $13.50 is
Yeah,
if you keep coming back?
yeah. So the
Okay.
extra 50 cents each time he came back. We looked at what Marshfield pays. They start off at $13 for their scorekeepers. So we thought we could go down just a little bit, but not too much farther down than what they start at.
Okay. Committee, questions? Patrick?
What basketball games are these for?
Men's league at East Junior High. I'm sorry, at Rams. So we run our men's league at Rams.
Is it like city employees?
Nope, it's a rec league.
A recreation league?
Yep, so each
Okay.
team plays 15 weeks, and they pay the city an annual, just a membership fee, and then they rent out, we rent out Rams gym.
All right, thank you.
Tom, anything? Kind of forgot about Dennis down there. Dennis, any questions? No. All right, what are the wishes of the committee? I'll second. There's a motion on the floor and a second to increase the basketball scorers rates from $9 an hour to the from 9 to 10.50 range to 12 to 13.50. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 5, consider revising City Hall hours to provide for closure of City Hall at noon on Fridays. Ryan.
Thank you again. This is a kind of a trending topic, and again, along with employee focus and employee morale, in this case specifically within City Hall. In talking with the mayor over the last year and a half, and looking at, I have found one other municipality that does this, and it's been a success for them. They revise their City Hall hours so that it basically closes at noon on Fridays. Our experience has been, for the time I've been here, of 2.5 years, Friday afternoons are very, very slow. If the phone rings once. Thank you, Jake. It's just very, very slow. And so we wanted to bring to the table just a thought of, would we be better served for the citizens? Rarely do you see anybody here trying to get in the door after 4:30. Typically, it's people trying to get in prior to 8 o'clock. So is there some discussion? And again, we didn't even know when this first came up if this committee was the right place for it. Maybe it's a finance committee or where that actually would be or fall, but we just kind of wanted to get the discussion going. So we've been, the mayor and I have been talking about this off and on, and tapped into the city attorney's mind a little bit, and brought it forth to Chairman Bemke, and just wanted to see what there was for discussion, or any input or thoughts overall.
Yes, sir. I guess what would the hours be that employees would be working to keep the regular number of hours? What's being looked at?
Great question. I would 7:30 to 4:30 would, and this is probably where things will start to get confusing, but nothing is set in stone and everything is very fluid. But 7:30 to 4:30 Monday through Thursday, and then 7:30 to noon on Fridays. Now, people are going to do the math and say, well, if I take a lunch, then I don't have enough hours. And that's true. The municipalities that I've talked to, they basically give the employee more flexibility. The department had more flexibility, or the department more flexibility, and then the employee more flexibility. So I think we're maybe looking at two different items here. City hall hours, what's best for city hall hours for the public, number one, right? That's the priority. And then number two, how can those hours be covered by the employees? So if an employee were to take a lunch for a half hour, 2 days a week, they're losing an hour, or they'd have to make up an hour. So maybe, yes, while City Hall closes at noon on Friday, they maybe stay and work until 1 o'clock or 1:30 or 2 o'clock. Some employees, and this is where some employees may not want that. Some employees may love their 8-hour days, 5 days a week. They want to work the straight 8. Okay. Based on the department, when we hire employees, for the most part here at City Hall, they're based on a certain schedule based on their department. They're told, for example, HR, 8 to 4:30. That's what they took the job for on that premise. So, I think we need to be mindful to say, oh, by the way, the hours are changing. You need to be here by this time. Well, that might not be able to be done. But if the City Hall hours are open, the department needs to make sure somebody's here to open and stay open, obviously till close. So, yeah, the hours, for instance, let's say 7:30 to 4:30, maybe a lot of times I don't really take a lunch. I just stay at my desk, eat there, and so that would be 9 hours a day, 7:30 to 4:30 times 4 days would be 36 hours, and then 7:30 to noon or 8 to noon for me on Friday, I would hit my 40. So there is that flexibility. Another option, I don't know if the council or committee would ever want to broach this, and maybe it's been done in the past. I think it maybe was years ago. I don't know, this is, again, just throwing things out there, spitballing, but if employees would be, I know there potentially would be some employees that would say, okay, I'm okay with 78 hours for a week. With a holiday or something, trying to hit 40 or whatever. Maybe coming in a little under at 78 for that week is totally fine. Then that maybe gives slight, minimal, it'd be minimal, but cost savings, I'm not sure.
Tom, go ahead.
I guess just to be clear, when we're talking about closing at noon, if that's the route we go, and we'd have to, I guess, figure out how it's going to be worded, but is closing at noon meaning it's closed at noon, or would the clerk's office be open, or would something be open? Because, it seems to me we'd have to sure consider that.
Absolutely. No, City Hall, now, if there's an ordinance or something with the clerk's office that they needed to be open a certain time, we'd obviously have to abide by that. But I didn't think there was. Obviously the police department, you know, but that's 24/7, you know, 365, and they use that phone. But it would be access to City Hall would close at noon, would be the preliminary discussion point. So if somebody wanted to come to City Hall on Friday afternoon at 3:30 to get a fence permit, because they just decided at 2 o'clock, today's a good day to go build my fence, but I need to get a permit, that it might not work going forward. But again, just looking for, you know, input and discussion. I think it's, because, again, if you talk to people around it's very, very quiet on a Friday. And I
think it hasn't been that many years ago that we did do something like this, didn't we, Jay, or don't you remember? I mean, before you were I think before you were an alderman, but I think, seems like we
Possibly.
tried something. Okay.
Patrick?
Can you list the different departments? I can think of HR, engineering, community development, IT. What other departments do we have here that?
Clerk's office, finance, and that probably would do it. And then, code enforcement, in there by community development. Yeah, that would do it. And approximately, I think we're talking, I believe it's around 30 employees that are within City Hall, not counting the police department. So we're talking, 30 employees in total between those departments that were referenced.
Okay. Do you have any way of knowing how many people come in here on Friday afternoons as compared to any other day in the afternoon?
No hard data. And we can definitely look for that. We could look at phone calls, just within departments. That would get a bit tedious, I think. Ask everybody what their logs are. We probably could check, try to keep, just tabs on traffic coming in after 12 o'clock on a Friday. But we have no data. It's hard. It's difficult because, it's not like a financial institution where you can say, we did this many transactions coming through the drive-up, or we did this many people came in the lobby. So it's hard because somebody might come up to community development and the here on front on first floor never sees them. And we would never see them up in HR because they just walk up to do their permitting maybe at community development.
Has there been any studies on productivity as far as that timing, leaving early on Friday as opposed to a full 5 days?
Sure. Yeah, I have no hard data or studies on that. Again, the counterpart that the other municipality, they did it just as a trial, and that was actually during COVID time, and they did it as a trial just to kind of limit things. And I believe their council told them, yeah, that is working out so good, because they wanted to see if there's going to be any negative feedback. I believe it was a 3-month trial, and they said, run with it. Let's do it permanently because, morale has picked up. We've heard great things. It gives the employees more fluidity. We're not hearing citizen complaints, that, hey, I tried to get here at 2:30 on a Friday afternoon and couldn't get in. So that's basically the one example, Patrick, that I can reference.
I guess I'd be willing to look at this and, what the ramifications would be. One thought, and I think that comes to mind is, and I mentioned, is the clerk's office, and that's with the minutes, meeting minutes and that type of thing getting put out, put together. And I guess I'd like some feedback from them, that, unless it'd be expected, I guess, that they would be, it'd be closed, but they'd be here afternoon putting that together, which, as you mentioned earlier, could be a possibility too, but, just so get some feedback on, I think, what, of things like that.
Sure. No, that's a great point. And you kind of wrapped it up there exactly. If things needed to get put out, clerk's office may be here past the closure time to get those packets out, or HR would be here, or community development would be here wrapping up a project on a Friday afternoon, so they're ready to present on Monday at the next meeting. So access to City Hall would be limited, but the employees themselves would still be here meeting their hours and doing the work as needed. So that's a great point, and I would absolutely be happy to get some more information for the committee.
And I think with that, I think if that, see what the people in those departments would think, but also I think to get input from them, if they feel that the citizens would be, even though the traffic is slow coming in,
Right.
if they think that the traffic that there is, that some department or something should be kept open later, because, even it may be that one or two that comes, and I'm not saying I'm, for sure to do something like that, but I mean, it's, because it's an interesting, I think, thing to look at those hours. But I think to get input again, that if a department, even though maybe it's one person on Friday, every Friday or something, maybe one person comes in, but it's something that's important, or very important, at least to that citizen.
Sure.
So I guess just, just get the feedback from the departments, what they think overall on it, I think.
Okay, absolutely. And that's, again, a great point, because probably a month, 2 months ago, I did put out kind of a feeler email to the department heads, just gauging a little bit of interest. There was enough for discussion, and definitely some cause for concern. There were questions like, okay, those are questions that will need answering and definitive answers on. But it gave us enough of there was at least enough of talking points to say, let's bring it to a committee to see if there's a little bit more to go. And now I can be happy to go back and keep talking to those department heads and see where they think the goods, bads, and differences will be. So, yeah, not a problem at all. I guess, do we think, I'm not an expert in this, is this the right committee for this agenda item to land?
I would think it's because it affects the hours. I would think so. I guess regardless, it's going to end up back at the council anyway. So
Right.
if you thought
Person?
this was go ahead.
Yes, this is Tim Sorcy. I'm just looking to when we're looking to make a final decision on this. And the reason I asked that question is that we're going to be developing tax flyer inserts, which we all know contains all the information of where and when, the deadlines for paying your taxes. And it'd be nice to know, like, if we're going to have a change in City Hall hours, I'd like to enumerate that in that insert, which is going to go out in probably early December. So just to avoid confusion, because anything with tax collections and stuff like that, any confusion, we usually get the brunt of it. And I'm just wondering when we're looking to make a final decision on this, so I can kind of maybe put that in the tax insert.
So Tim, typically what's the window for taxes? I mean, can you give us some dates? When you
We'll be sending, we'll be making up the inserts and the final tax bills at the beginning of December.
Okay, but typically
And I
it's,
hate to put it,
it's,
And I really don't want to put in there like city hours could be this. I mean, I'm not saying that for the finance department, we can stay open till 4:30 on Friday, but that's going to incur extra hours on our end. And I'm just wondering kind of the timeline of this. That's all I'm asking.
so, and this typically would go from, well, people probably are up paying taxes before the first of the year and then up until April, mid-April, correct?
Correct. I mean, the insert will say these are city hall hours to go pay your taxes, and that goes through all 3 installments. Not saying we can't send out something in the meantime or communicate that, but all I know is I'm just trying to like, you know, what am I going to put in the insert? That we're open till 4:30 on Friday or not? And if we do, and all of a sudden at some point we close, I'm guessing that we're going to have to stay open till 4:30 if we put it in the insert. Just for the, you know, we've been open on, I do believe the 31st because city was closed for that due to New Year's on December 31st. But, you know, you're talking every Friday through all the installments. So I was just kind of wondering what the timeline was. So I kind of know how to put something in the insert to let taxpayers know when they can come up and pay their tax.
All right, thanks, Tim. Dennis, anything?
I think Tom pretty well covered my concerns that I had. Tim is saying too, I mean, what department would you want to close down early? There'll always be somebody coming in for something, but you still have to hold at a certain hour that you might want to close, whether it be 4 o'clock or whatever. Pretty much all I have.
So I guess, Ryan, to kind of sum this up, the building physically will be closed, but that doesn't mean that there may not be people working in here. My second question would be is, what are the people that are assigned to work here, and the two groups that come together is engineering, or come to mind, or it's engineering and code enforcement. They work out of City Hall, but necessarily, I mean, they're out in the field, not necessarily in the building. I agree. I think this could be a good thing, but with the fact that we have tax season coming up, and I would say we could implement this probably mid-year and not have too much problems, so maybe wait till after tax season and try our new hours. I know a lot of places switch in the summer, have summer hours anyways, and I think we could get a lot of questions answered. So, Patrick?
So I'm all for this, and I think that it would be good for the employees. It would kind of extend their weekend in a way, especially if they're gonna leave somewhere for the weekend. It would give them a little extra time to get ready. But I do think that it could be a seasonal thing where it would be January till April normal hours, and then May to December have the shortened hours. That's my thoughts.
So, how about this? How about we look at implementing this in May? Starting this in May? I mean, that's typically when people are gonna wanna travel the most, and 6 months, a 6 month trial and see what happens, what comes out of this. Ryan, go ahead.
Chairperson Benke?
Go ahead, Mr. DeSorcy.
Yeah, and I think, you know, from a tax collection standpoint, obviously the first installment is the most critical. That's when we get our biggest volume. Obviously, you know, with the second installment due April 30th, and the subsequent one after that is July 31st, aren't as critical as far as the traffic. So I would just, you know, if we can't have a decision made before we, you know, send out the tax bills, I would prefer it be after the January 31st. I mean, I have no, you know, issues with closing on Friday for the reasons that were stated earlier in this thing. My concern is just more of like, informing taxpayers and them showing up on Friday afternoons and it being closed. I mean, we do have a drop box there, but that doesn't always satisfy everyone. So I would say that if any decisions can be made, I would just respectfully be after the January 31st installment.
Start it in May. So let's shoot for this. Let's shoot for this to start this May 1st, or how about the first Monday in May? I don't have my calendar in front of me. And I guess that'll give us some time to answer some questions and identify any potential problems. So I'll make a motion to start this, the city hall hours on the first Monday of May. Does that work? I guess the worst thing that's gonna happen is we won't be able to do it. So there's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Is this gonna be a 6-month trial as well? Like, is that part of the motion that it's or are we gonna do it till December?
Now, let's try it until December, and then we can reevaluate it then.
That's a good idea. I'll second that.
Tom, did you have a comment?
So if it's all right with the committee, then I'll do that homework, talk with department heads, come up with some Q and As. I know questions that have been asked and have yet to be answered definitively. Come back with some proposed ideas on that so that we can have definite information when that time comes to kind of work through those conversations prior to, April or May.
Yeah, and I think with that, Ryan, just as, I think you mentioned that there's one other community that did this and stayed with it.
Yep.
I guess if, maybe just follow up if there was some initial problems that they had, complaints that they had,
Sure.
fears that people had about it.
Sure. Yep.
And then how if there were, how that got resolved then too, or how, that, obviously if they continued doing it, if there were, because I'm sure people will be concerned about the hours being changed,
Yeah.
like that. So,
Yep.
just
Absolutely.
how they may have handled it, maybe they wrote the book on how to do it
Right.
the right, not necessarily the right way, but so the community feels it's the right thing to do too.
Yep.
So.
Absolutely. Good.
We can learn from their mistakes, right?
Yep.
Good.
Good. Thank you.
Any other comments? Did we vote on that? If we should vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, which moves us to item number 6, which is adjournment. There's a
Second.
motion and a second on the floor to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned at 2:42.